Most of the food people stockpile for emergencies won't last as long as they think. That can of beans in the back of your pantry, it might expire before you even need it. And those so-called long-term survival meals you see online, a lot of them are nothing more than expensive junk. The reality is, not all preserved foods are equal, and choosing the wrong type can cost you time, money, and peace of mind. Today, we're cutting through the hype to show you which foods actually last and which ones are just taking up space. Because when the clock starts ticking, your choices matter. Today, we're going to break down the long-term food storage debate: canned, dehydrated, and freeze-dried. If you've ever wondered which of these foods will actually last decades or how to store them without losing flavor and nutrition, you're in the right place. This isn't about buying expensive gadgets or filling your pantry with fancy prepackaged meals you'll never eat. It's about understanding the real differences between these storage methods, knowing what works, and making choices that are practical for everyday people. Most people make the mistake of buying what's convenient, trendy, or flashy. Maybe it looks impressive online or it comes in a bright, attractive package, but that doesn't mean it will survive months or even years in your pantry. And when the time comes, having food that has spoiled or lost its nutritional value isn't just frustrating, it's a risk. On the other hand, picking the right type of food, storing it properly, and rotating it strategically can make a world of difference. This video will help you separate the options that truly last from the ones that are just taking up space and money. We'll go step by step through canned, dehydrated, and freeze-dried foods. We'll explain how each one is processed, what kind of shelf life you can realistically expect, and what you need to know to store it properly. You'll see the differences in weight, convenience, and nutrition retention, and we'll cover which types are best for short-term use, which are ideal for everyday meals, and which are built to last decades. We'll also share some practical tips for keeping your stockpile organized and safe, without spending a fortune or needing special equipment. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear plan for stocking your pantry with foods that are reliable, nutritious, and practical. You'll know exactly what to buy first, how to store it, and how to rotate it so nothing goes to waste. Plus, I'm going to reveal one standout option that even experienced preppers swear by, something you can start adding to your food storage right now in a way that's both budget-friendly and effective. Whether you're just starting out or looking to improve your existing stockpile, this video will give you the knowledge and confidence to make smart, lasting choices. So let's dive in and get practical about what really works for long-term food storage. Freeze-dried foods. Let's start with freeze-dried foods, because if you're thinking long-term, this is usually the gold standard. Freeze-dried foods go through a very specific process that removes moisture while keeping flavor and nutrients almost perfectly intact. The process starts by dehydrating the food, then freezing it, and finally removing the ice through a method called sublimation, where the ice turns directly from solid to gas without ever becoming liquid. This process preserves the shape, texture, and nutrition in a way that traditional dehydrating or canning just can't match. The food stays lightweight, easy to handle, and ready for storage or transport. One of the biggest advantages of freeze-dried foods is the shelf life. Properly stored freeze-dried food can last 25 years or more. That means you could stock your pantry today and still have safe, nutritious, and flavorful food 2 decades from now. This is a huge advantage over most canned or dehydrated foods. That said, freeze-dried foods are sensitive to oxygen and moisture. For best results, store them in sealed Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, or in number 10 cans that are tightly sealed. Keep them in a cool, dark, dry place, and they can last for decades without losing quality or flavor. Another benefit is convenience. Freeze-dried foods are lightweight and compact, making them ideal for storage or for taking on camping trips, backpacking adventures, or emergency situations. Unlike canned goods, which are heavy and take up a lot of space, a few freeze-dried packs can provide the same calories and nutrition in a fraction of the volume. The texture and flavor are also preserved really well, so even food stored for years won't taste stale or artificial. That's one reason why preppers and backpackers alike rely on freeze-dried meals. Of course, there are trade-offs. Freeze-dried foods tend to be more expensive because of the machines and processes involved in making them. Buying commercial packs can get costly, but you can make it manageable by adding one number 10 can to your stockpile each month or gradually building up your supply over time. If you're really committed, investing in a home freeze dryer allows you to preserve your own food long term, but even without one, buying freeze-dried foods commercially is one of the most reliable ways to build a long-lasting pantry. Overall, freeze-dried foods excel in nutrition retention, shelf life, and convenience. They are perfect for your long-term storage layer. And later, when we compare them to dehydrated and canned foods, you'll see why experienced preppers consider them essential. But before we get into that comparison, let's look at dehydrated foods and how they stack up. Dehydrated foods. Next, let's talk about dehydrated foods. If freeze-dried foods are the gold standard for long-term storage, dehydrated foods are the practical, everyday alternative. The process is simple and straightforward. Dehydrated foods just have their moisture removed. That's it. There's no freezing, no sublimation, no complicated machinery. Because of this, dehydrated foods tend to be a little heavier and denser than freeze-dried foods, but they are still a fantastic way to preserve meals for the short to medium term. For most households, this is an affordable, realistic way to start building a food storage system without breaking the bank. Shelf life varies depending on the food and storage conditions. Dehydrated vegetables like carrots, green beans, or potatoes generally last longer than fruits. Dehydrated fruits, while convenient and tasty, usually have a shorter shelf life because of residual moisture. Meats like jerky or dried eggs have an even shorter window, often just a year or two. That's why when it comes to home dehydrated foods, it's smart to be conservative with how long you rely on them. The goal is reliability. You want to be confident that your dehydrated foods will still be safe, nutritious, and tasty when you actually need them. One of the biggest advantages of dehydrating your own food is cost. Home dehydrators are inexpensive, widely available, and easy to use. You can even find them at thrift stores, on secondhand marketplaces, or online for a very reasonable price. Dehydrating is also a fantastic way to reduce waste and make use of fresh or frozen foods that might otherwise go bad. You can dehydrate fruits, vegetables, herbs, and even fun items like marshmallows for snacks or recipes. It's not just about preparing for emergencies. Dehydrating is a practical, everyday way to add preserved foods into your cooking routine while simultaneously building your short-term emergency layer. Texture and size are another important factor when comparing dehydrated foods to freeze-dried options. Dehydrated foods shrink as the moisture is removed, and they can become harder or chewier. This makes them slightly heavier and less convenient to eat directly out of storage. Freeze-dried foods, in contrast, keep their original shape and texture almost perfectly. That is why freeze-dried meals are often preferred for long-term storage or for situations where portability matters, like backpacking. Dehydrated foods shine when used at home for cooking or in short-term emergency scenarios where weight and texture aren't as critical. Storage is still key with dehydrated foods. Just like freeze-dried foods, moisture is their enemy. Keep your dehydrated foods in airtight containers, vacuum-sealed bags, or Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers if possible. Store them in a cool, dark, dry place to maximize their shelf life. Regularly rotate your stockpile. A simple rule of thumb is use what you store and store what you use. That ensures that your dehydrated foods remain fresh, functional, and ready for emergencies or everyday meals. Overall, dehydrated foods are versatile, practical, and extremely budget-friendly. They may not last 25 years like freeze-dried foods, but they are perfect for your everyday layer, short-term emergencies, or for people who are just starting their food storage journey. They allow you to build confidence in your stockpile, integrate preserved foods into daily life, and experiment with different preservation methods without spending a fortune. Later, when we compare dehydrated foods to canned options, you'll see why using a combination of freeze-dried, dehydrated, and canned foods creates a strong, practical, and balanced long-term food storage system. Canned foods. Now let's talk about canned foods. Canning is one of the oldest and most trusted methods of preserving food. The process involves cooking the food, sealing it in a can, and then heating it to destroy bacteria or microorganisms that could cause spoilage. Commercial canned foods go through precise, standardized processes to guarantee safety and maximize shelf life. Even home canned foods can last a long time if you follow the correct techniques, like using the right type of canning method for each food, following temperature guidelines, and ensuring a proper seal. The main difference with canned foods is that they are heavy and bulky, so they aren't ideal for backpacking trips or bug-out bags, but they are perfect for a home pantry or long-term storage at home. Shelf life varies depending on the type of food and its acidity. Most commercially canned foods last between 2 to 5 years, although some low-acid items like beans, soups, or canned meats can last much longer, even up to a decade in ideal conditions. Acidic foods like tomatoes, pineapples, or citrus tend to spoil faster, so they require more careful rotation. The key to getting the longest shelf life from canned foods is proper storage. Keep your cans in a cool, dry, dark place and inspect them regularly. Look out for bulging lids, rust, leaks, or dents, because even one compromised can could make the contents unsafe to eat. Consistent inspection and rotation are crucial for maintaining a reliable stockpile. One of the biggest advantages of canned foods is affordability and accessibility. You can find them at nearly any grocery store, order them online, or even make them yourself if you have a garden or access to fresh produce. Canned foods are an easy way to start building a short or medium-term food layer, especially if you're new to prepping. They're ready to eat, pre-cooked, and convenient for everyday meals. You can also rotate them into your diet to prevent waste, using what you store while storing what you use. This simple habit keeps your stockpile practical and ensures it stays fresh and useful over time. Of course, there are trade-offs. Cans are heavy, take up more space than freeze-dried or dehydrated foods, and aren't suitable for situations where portability is essential. However, for a home-based stockpile, they are incredibly practical. Think of canned foods as the foundation of your everyday layer. Items you can reach for immediately, cook quickly, or eat straight from the pantry without any preparation or rehydration. When combined with dehydrated and freeze-dried foods, canned foods form a strong, versatile system that covers short-term needs, long-term storage, and portable emergency options. This combination ensures that you have the right food for every scenario, whether it's a power outage, natural disaster, or everyday convenience. Ultimately, canned foods are about stability, reliability, and ease of access. They won't last decades like freeze-dried foods, but they are affordable, readily available, and dependable. They are a key component of a balanced stockpile, complementing dehydrated and freeze-dried foods by providing variety, cost efficiency, and convenience. Later, when we compare all three types of food side by side, you'll get a clear picture of how to maximize your storage, nutrition, and practicality, so you can make informed choices for your pantry and your emergency preparedness plan. Freeze-dried versus dehydrated versus canned foods. Now that we've covered freeze-dried, dehydrated, and canned foods individually, let's break down how they compare so you can see which one is best for different situations. Shelf life comparison. Now that we've gone over freeze-dried, dehydrated, and canned foods individually, let's break down how they compare so you can see which one is best for different situations. First up, shelf life. This is often the biggest factor when deciding what to stock. Freeze-dried foods take the lead here. When stored properly in a cool, dark, dry place, freeze-dried foods can last 25 years or more. That's decades of reliable nutrition in a lightweight, compact form. Dehydrated foods come next. Depending on the type of food and how well you store it, dehydrated foods can last anywhere from 1 year up to 10 years. Vegetables generally last longer than fruits, and meats like jerky or eggs have shorter shelf lives. Then we have canned foods, which usually last 2 to 5 years, though some low-acid foods like beans, soups, or meats can last even longer. Acidic foods like tomatoes or pineapple will spoil faster. Shelf life is all about understanding the type of food you're storing, checking it regularly, and rotating your stockpile to keep it fresh. Nutrition retention. Next, let's talk about nutrition retention. Freeze-dried foods are the clear winner here. The way they're processed preserves nearly all nutrients, including protein, fats, and vitamins. That means the calories you store will be nutrient-rich and support your health in a long-term emergency. Dehydrated foods lose some nutrients during the drying process, especially if you're drying at home without precise temperature control. Still, they hold up well for short to medium-term use. Canned foods, because they are cooked and sealed, can lose some heat-sensitive nutrients, but they still provide reliable calories, protein, and energy. The key takeaway is that if your priority is long-term nutrition, freeze-dried foods are the best option but dehydrated and canned foods still provide practical nutrition for everyday or short-term storage. Flavor and texture. Flavor and texture are often overlooked, but they can make a big difference when it comes time to eat your stored food. Freeze-dried foods keep their shape, texture, and flavor almost perfectly, which is why they're so popular for backpacking and emergency meals you might eat directly from storage. Dehydrated foods shrink, become denser, and can get harder or chewier. That makes them better suited for cooking later rather than eating straight out of the pantry. Canned foods taste closer to freshly cooked meals, especially meats, soups, and stews, but they are heavy and take up more space. So it really comes down to what's most important to you: long-term nutrition and portability, or convenience and flavor for home use. Cost and accessibility. Finally, let's look at cost and accessibility. Canned foods are cheap, easy to find in virtually any grocery store, and a great starting point for anyone building a pantry. Dehydrated foods are also affordable, especially if you make them at home with a small dehydrator and some leftover fresh or frozen foods. Freeze-dried foods are the most expensive option, whether purchased commercially or made at home. But the benefits, long shelf life, nutrient retention, and portability, often justify the investment. A simple strategy is to combine all three types: canned foods for your everyday layer, dehydrated foods for short-term or medium-term use, and freeze-dried foods for your long-term layer. This way, you balance cost, convenience, and nutrition effectively. Choosing what to stock. So when you're deciding what to stock, think about your goals, the space you have available, and your budget. If you want food that can last decades and retain almost all its nutrients, freeze-dried is the way to go. If you want something versatile and affordable for daily use, dehydrated foods are perfect. And canned foods, they're reliable, easy to store, and great for building a strong foundation in your home pantry. By using all three together, you create a balanced, practical, and resilient stockpile that covers short-term emergencies, everyday meals, and long-term survival needs. Diversifying your food storage in this way ensures that no matter what happens, you'll have options that fit the situation. Perfect, Farwa. Let's expand the comparison even further by breaking it into additional focus sections so viewers really understand the pros and cons of freeze-dried, dehydrated, and canned foods. This will make your video feel detailed and authoritative while keeping it conversational. I'll suggest 5 more sections that complement the previous ones: portability and convenience. Portability is a big factor, especially if you want emergency food you can grab quickly. Freeze-dried foods are the winner here because they are extremely lightweight and compact. You can pack a lot of calories into a small backpack or even store individual meals for camping trips. Dehydrated foods are heavier and denser, so they're better suited for home use or short-term storage rather than for grabbing and going. Canned foods are the least portable. They're heavy and bulky, which makes them perfect for a pantry, but impractical for bug-out situations or long treks. So if you plan to carry your food somewhere or rely on it during an emergency outside your home, freeze-dried foods are the easiest option. Ease of preparation. Another important factor is how easy the foods are to prepare when it's time to eat them. Freeze-dried foods are usually the simplest. You just add water and they're ready to go in minutes. Dehydrated foods often need longer cooking times, especially vegetables, grains, or meats, and may require rehydration first. Canned foods, on the other hand, are already cooked and often ready to eat straight from the can, which makes them convenient for everyday meals. The takeaway here is that freeze-dried foods are quick for emergency use, canned foods are great for home use without any prep, and dehydrated foods are flexible but require a little more effort. Versatility in cooking. Versatility is another point to consider. Freeze-dried foods can be used directly in meals or rehydrated for soups, stews, and snacks, making them highly flexible for both survival situations and everyday cooking. Dehydrated foods are excellent for adding to recipes. They can be cooked into casseroles, soups, or baked goods, but they are less convenient to eat straight from the pantry. Canned foods are already cooked, so they're perfect for quick meals, but their flavor is set and they are less adaptable for modifying recipes. If you enjoy cooking and experimenting with your pantry foods, dehydrated foods give you more creative control, while freeze-dried and canned foods are faster and simpler. Storage space and organization. Space is another consideration. Freeze-dried foods shrink down a lot and are easy to stack or store in compact containers like number 10 cans or Mylar bags. Dehydrated foods also shrink but are denser, so they require more careful organization. Canned foods take up the most room because of their weight and size, and they're not flexible in terms of stacking without proper shelving. When planning your stockpile, think about where you'll store each type. Freeze-dried foods are perfect for long-term storage in compact spaces, dehydrated foods for medium-term pantry organization, and canned foods for bulk storage where weight isn't an issue. Overall, pros and cons, let's summarize the comparison so it's easy to see at a glance. Freeze-dried foods are the best for long-term storage, nutrition retention, and portability, but they are the most expensive. Dehydrated foods are practical, affordable, and versatile, perfect for everyday use or medium-term storage, though they don't last as long and require a little more prep. Canned foods are cheap, accessible, and convenient for home pantries, but heavy, bulky, and less portable. The key strategy is combining all three. Use canned foods for your everyday layer, dehydrated foods for your short-term or medium-term layer, and freeze-dried foods for your long-term layer. That way, you balance cost, nutrition, longevity, convenience, and portability, creating a stockpile that is practical, resilient, and ready for any situation. Takeaways and standout recommendation. So, after looking closely at freeze-dried, dehydrated, and canned foods, here's the reality. No single type of food can cover every need perfectly. Freeze-dried foods are your best bet for long-term storage. They can last decades if stored correctly, retain nearly all of their nutrients, and are lightweight and easy to transport. They are perfect for your emergency bag, for camping trips, or for times when portability and nutrition matter most. Dehydrated foods are a practical, everyday option. They are affordable, easy to make at home or buy commercially, and perfect for cooking into meals on a regular basis. They shrink down and can be stored efficiently, but their shelf life is shorter than freeze-dried, so they are ideal for short to medium-term storage. Canned foods are reliable and accessible. They are the heaviest option, but they are often the cheapest and easiest to find. For home pantries, canned foods are a strong foundation because they are ready to eat, pre-cooked, and stored safely for several years if you rotate them regularly. The key to a strong food storage system is diversification. You don't want to rely on just one type of preserved food. Using a mix of all three types creates a resilient system. Keep canned foods for your everyday short-term layer. Use dehydrated foods for medium-term storage and for cooking into your daily meals. Reserve freeze-dried foods for your long-term layer, the ones that will last decades and give you true peace of mind. By combining all three, you cover convenience, cost, portability, and longevity, and you ensure your food supply is functional no matter the situation. Now here's the standout recommendation that even experienced preppers swear by: cans of freeze-dried staples. These cans are large, compact, and incredibly versatile. They can hold vegetables, fruits, proteins, or even fats. When stored properly, they can last 25 years or more. They are the backbone of a long-term food storage system. The best part is that you can build your stockpile gradually. You don't have to spend hundreds of dollars at once. By adding just one can each month or purchasing them gradually over time, you can slowly build a robust long-term pantry without straining your budget. These cans are the reason many preppers feel confident about their long-term storage. They are practical, reliable, and almost unbeatable in shelf life. Preparation is about more than just buying food. It is about making consistent, smart choices. Start small, rotate what you store, and gradually incorporate freeze-dried staples into your pantry. It is not about panic or hoarding. It is about creating a system that works for you and your family. Even a small, consistent effort will add up over time, and your stockpile will become a reliable source of nutrition and peace of mind. Finally, take action today. Even if this feels overwhelming, that is normal. It should feel like a responsibility. Start by stocking what you can afford and rotating your existing pantry items. Gradually build toward incorporating long-term freeze-dried staples while maintaining a mix of dehydrated and canned foods. By doing this, your pantry becomes balanced, practical, and prepared for short-term emergencies, long-term situations, and everyday use. For engagement and community, consider sharing your experience in the comments. What is the one food item you will never forget to stock again? By leaving a comment, you not only help others who are building their stockpiles, but you may also see your suggestion featured in a future video. Remember, being prepared is not about perfection. It is about consistent action, smart choices, and knowing that you and your loved ones are ready for whatever comes next.